Well, good morning. Actually, I should probably just leave that open because I gotta pull the slide in. And welcome to another episode of this trip series. Not bad for free, right? So, from what I gather, this is a bit of an ATV staging area because I heard a couple go up the canyon there. If anybody knows what that smell is, it's sort of like cedar, it's kind of like sage, and it has like the funk and earthiness of the dirt. And maybe it's all of the above, I don't know. For context, you join me in northern Idaho, and we are on our way into Salt Lake City today, where we may or may not be actually doing a video or tour with Falken TerraFlex. I don't know if I've talked about them before on the channel, but spoiler alert, they are the suspension that I want to run next, even though I'm going to break the rule, which is not go down in terms of performance. That's a whole big conversation for probably that video, but yeah, I don't want to get into too many of the details and semantics quite yet, but suffice it to say, I actually don't know if this is even going to happen. So, fingers crossed it does. We have about 4.5 hours, give or take, to get to Salt Lake. So, yeah, that'll put us there mid-afternoon. And then it's my intention just to do a super short jaunt out from there and just, again, try to make a shorter day today because, yeah, I would have honestly loved to have, like, slept in and, gosh darn it, maybe even spent a day here. And I could have, had I not pushed so hard to try to get some kind of on camera with Falken TerraFlex. So I'm gonna pull the slide in here, but actually before I do, I want to show you what I found. All right, so I came around here last night and to remove the plug so I could turn on the water heater. And the first thing I noticed is that when I opened the door, the cable had popped right off, and haven't had my coffee yet, where the screws thread into this plastic, it's broken right off at the base. So I'm not exactly sure how that would have happened, but given that this is cracked now below it, you can actually see where this is sort of like, either they put the screw in too tight from factory and it cracked the plastic and then, sort of made the whole thing weak, which again, we can't necessarily rule out, or there was like a positive pressure pulling on it this way. But yeah, the really annoying thing is I suspect this is like shockingly expensive for a door and a frame. The frame is usable. I could throw some screw through here, although I don't want to punch a bunch of holes in the side of the trailer. But the door, I don't know. I don't see any way I could fix that. I mean, it's missing, and any JB Weld or whatever that I have, would just stretch and explode. So, yeah, that sucks. Did this happen because of that big windstorm? Did this happen because maybe this was over tightened from factory here and here? You know what I mean? But we are out of warranty now because 1 year, right? Yeah, that's a new thing that I've really started to think about now that I'm beyond 1 year. Like, I've mentioned it before in other videos, I'll mention it again. Trailers are getting more expensive because of amazing technology like this, water heater and the additional conduit and all that stuff that goes into it. But it seems like a lot of the manufacturing techniques haven't changed. And so we're getting more expensive products at the same historically low standard, let's say. And I think that that's creating conflicts where customers who, aren't and shouldn't have to consider the bits and pieces in construction methodology and all this and that, they see a price and they see the price going up, and then they're experiencing issues. And it's that delta between the two that I think is setting things up for conflict. So anyways, yeah, that's enough philosophizing before we've ever had any coffee. Not ever before we've had coffee for the day. Again, haven't had the coffee. So yeah, let's pull this slide in, get moving. Well, you join me inside the washroom. I noticed outside there's quite a rapid drip of water coming out from the low point drain valves, but when I come in here, the low point drain valves, and it's coming out of the red one, I think it's this one right here, there we go. It's fully down. There's no moisture up here, so has this valve here just taken this moment in time to decide to leak. Now thankfully there's no like leak inside the trailer, which is good, but oh man, I just can't catch a break sometimes. Like, let's be honest, these plastic valves are probably the cheapest component that could have been used, so I don't know. Anyways, let's go back outside and see if it's still leaking. All I did was I just turned them like a quarter turn. Maybe it just, like, a gasket wasn't sealing or something like that. But yeah, it's coming out at a rate that is not insignificant. It's the middle one. I've only been here for a couple of minutes. All right, sit rep or status update. It was the middle tube, the one that's wet, and the actual plastic valve inside had like a 1 or 2 millimeter gap, but it won't close all the way. I don't know if there's an obstruction or maybe it's a faulty valve or something like that. So I took 2 little zip ties, one medium or big one would have worked just fine, and I zip tied it around the T-handle of the valve just to add a little bit of positive pressure on it, because I'm not going to be pulling the low tank valves anytime soon. So far as I'm concerned, it can stay like that until the winter or the fall when I go to winterize it. But yeah, the freshwater tank is still showing at full, which is good. However much we want to trust those tank measurements. I mean, it's fresh, so it should be accurate. But yeah, it was the middle one. Anyways, one of them is a return line for the hot water system. So it's entirely possible that when we turned on the hot water last night for our shower, that pressurization maybe like lifted the valve slightly. That's my working theory. So anyways, lost a few minutes here, but let's get back on the road and head to Salt Lake.
So I've just pulled off here. There is a disappointing lack of rest stations between like Idaho Falls and here. I noticed that on the map coming down, and I especially noticed it when you have a bladder that is very much telling you to stop. So, yeah, I think. Oh, there goes the micro mini. We passed that micro mini being towed by the Toyota SUV with the V8. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna hit the bathroom. We have about another hour and a bit to go before we get to our destination, Salt Lake. And yeah, gosh, it's nice. Oh, that said, if I thought 117 was warm, we beat that. So it really seems that 34 degrees Celsius with long sustained climbs in this configuration with the taller gear set, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there was a giant hill, very long, not super steep, but long. And for a half a second, I saw 120, half a second. What's interesting though is I actually thought the temperature gauge was a dummy gauge, or what they call an idiot gauge, meaning it'll read normal until it reads hot, or it'll read cold until it reads normal kind of thing. It actually does move in increments, and that 120, it was just on the other side of middle, I guess, well, from your perspective this way. So I don't want to know what it's like more than that. I just keep running through my head about, you know, what I can do. Like, I know that Cobb high mount intercooler would definitely lower my intake air temps, keep the power up, and hopefully not labor it. I know that the gears that are sitting in my living room right now would also help with that. I know that the Mishimoto oil cooler would help, you know, evaporate heat or dissipate heat separate from the coolant system, because right now it's putting all that heat into the coolant system. So it's what's going to give us the best return on investment. Ideally, in the long term, I'd love to do all of it, but yeah, we have to, you know, who's got that money, right? I think I was talking about the bathroom. I'm going to do that now, and then we'll get back on the road. So yeah, all right, be back with you. Well, good news and less good news. You might be able to see behind me, we did actually make it to Falcon and TerraFlex. And I want to take a moment to discuss exactly why I'm here and the applicability for us in the off-grid and towing community. And I have their most current product catalog. Unfortunately, there was not the opportunity to do a typical tour or an on-camera interview, but hopefully me standing outside an industrial estate will suffice, because, well, that's really what we got. So yeah, come on in and let's have a talk about it. So if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you would know that we installed Bilstein 5100 series shocks on Girl 1 here, particularly because of its digressive valving. Now, the way that Bilstein achieves its digressive valving is through a digressive piston and then a standard shim stack on top of it. Falcon does things a little bit differently, where they use a linear piston, which would be the same as like what Fox would use, for example. However, they use a really big, thick shim on the top of the shim stack, and that actually is what creates a digressive shim stack. So Falcon actually calls it a digressive linear or a linear digressive, one of the two, setup. And so in theory, you kind of get the best of both worlds, where you get the linear damping, so you're not getting that stiff off the top compression damping, but then you're also still taking advantage of the digressive nature, where you're actually going to then have that support when you're towing and hauling. But Falcon's kind of unique because they don't actually just rely on the valving to achieve that stability. On the rear shocks, they actually have a 3-position adjuster where you can increase that compression damping all on its own. So what that means is on the front dampers, you get a more soft, linear drive, kind of friendly sort of feeling. But on the rear dampers, instead of people reaching for airbags and, rubber compression discs, etc., to increase the spring rate, what you really need are dampers, because spring rate is what determines that ride height. Damping determines how much it compresses. Now, no criticism to people who use airbags, and I speak from experience. On one of my previous vehicles, I used airbags to help support the weight of a trailer, not knowing the first thing about dampers and dampening. But as is life, you learn and then you try to apply that knowledge. So what Falcon's doing is they have a setting 1, setting 2, setting 3, where setting 1 is going to be all the way open. Setting 2 is going to add about 20% of compression damping, and setting 3, which they call their tow haul, that's going to add about 50% of compression damping. The reason why I'm saying about is there will actually be differences between vehicle to vehicle depending on how they've tested out the damping characteristics for that particular platform, etc., etc. So these are rough figures, but what that means is that let's say you just throw some stuff in the back, a rooftop tent, fridge freezer combination, some camping gear. Maybe the extra 300-400 pounds that you've got in that bed with some fuel, etc., compression setting 2 is going to be enough so that when you're hitting undulations and you're hitting, bumps and potholes and all that stuff, you're not blowing through and compressing all the way straight through those rear dampers. But let's say you're towing like us and you've got fuel in the back like us and you've got all the extra stuff like us. Well, now you're going to want to put it in that setting 3, that 50% closed on the compression circuit. So hopefully these shocks should deliver a much more stable and selectable adjustment, so that maybe theoretically, hypothetically, Bilstein targeted towing with the 5100s and they set that compression setting quite high. Well, when we're empty, what we're calling sporty driving characteristics, some other people might call firm or harsh. And so this would hopefully allow for that much better balance. Something else Falcon is doing on their shocks is giving you actual true what they call zone control damping, or actually I might have just stolen that terminology from Bilstein. Fox uses a twin tube damper, so there are oil port passages where as the piston goes through its travel, it's going to provide bypasses and thus different levels of compression damping. What Falcon's doing is at the top end, they actually have a bump stop. Now, in the front, that's a bump stop over the shaft. On the back, they're actually taking the bump stop that they said they had great success with from the Jeep platform. They CNC machined and developed some really nice bracketry, and we get a proper progressive bump stop in the rear. And then on the other end, there's actually like a spring, a mechanical spring on the inside. And so when you go to top out, that mechanical spring comes into contact and it engages with that piston and will then reduce the top out forces. So you get kind of your ride zone in the middle, you get your bump stop, and you get your spring. With Bilstein's 8112s, they have the same sort of thing, albeit much more technical, which is also why much more expensive. Now, unfortunately, it's not all good news, because the one rule that I had with the suspension upgrades on Grey Wolf 1 was not taking a step back. So we know on a standard F-150, the front shocks are a 5-inch stroke. Bilstein has a habit, a good habit, might I add, of giving you a little bit more stroke, which gives you more wheel travel, a little bit bang for your buck, without increasing the risk or the downsides where you could potentially blow an upper controller and ball joint or something like that. So on the 5100s that we have, they're actually a 5.5-inch stroke, which is the same 5.5-inch stroke that we had previously on the Tremor suspension that it replaced. But Falcon, unfortunately, uses a 5-inch travel strut, and that's acceptable. That is what the standard F-150 came with. I feel like I'm getting way off topic here, but suffice it to say, there's more conversations to be had. But I wanted to take a moment and really show you guys, well, unfortunately I can't show you guys, but talk about this company because I think when it comes to American made, American manufacturer, American employees, all these things, this is the kind of stuff that I want to support. But I've also been led to believe that because of a recent acquisition, it might be the underlying reason why I am sort of struggling in this conversation. But maybe we'll get into that tonight. So for now, let's find some more affordable gas. We're going to top up the tank. We're going to fill all our jerry cans. And then let's head out of here and have an early day and wrap up this conversation later. So let's do that now. All right, Americans, we need to have a chat. Now, it's entirely possible I'm wrong about this, but what is up with the 85 octane? I mean, the F-150 calls for 87 minimum, 91 if you want all the power. So what's up with the 85? Because I didn't see it being E85. Like, I don't think it's that super rich ethanol, or maybe it is and I'm totally wrong, but are people running vehicles on 85 ethanol here? I don't know. That seems odd to me. So, somebody let me know. That'd be greatly appreciated. Anyways, I told myself I wasn't going to get any takeout food, but it's been delay after delay after delay after problem after whatever. So, I'm here. I'm getting Burger King. I'm getting damn it, I might even get a combo, but the fries are terrible and the onion rings are terrible and the onion ring fry combination is also the burger's decent. I'll get a combo if they have a root beer. That'll be the deciding factor. Okay, I'll be back. Yeah, they had root beer. I mean, of course they were gonna have root beer, let's be honest. That is Barks though. I cannot tell you the last time that I had a Barks. I also, I got the ring. I don't know. I'm giving it a second try. Last time, oh my God. Oh my God. 15-second rule. I feel like this is not going to work in my favor. All right, repositioning. Yeah, these are really just not good onion rings. Yeah. So yeah, disappointing, but actually kind of a disappointing day all around, if I'm being honest. Between showing up at Falcon, not having anybody there to receive me, I got dumped on a poor customer service guy who's very helpful. Shout out to you, Canyon. You are a legend. But, poor Canyon, he said to me, he's like, well, next time if you just give us a little bit of heads up. It's like, I just told him, I was like, I've been trying to get a hold of people here since January. Here, of course, being Falcon. But, it's interesting how if they didn't have the interest, you can give a professional response. Thank you for your interest in our products. We love your enthusiasm. However, we're not prepared to be able to accommodate you at this time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, blah, blah, blah. I did. In fact, they even said, if you have any questions, ask. I emailed and still didn't even get a response. Something's afoot. And I won't say who told me, but it turns out Falcon got acquired by Wheel Pros, that company that's run by a hedge fund that bought out everybody and then bankrupted Hoonigan and who knows what else. So yeah, fries are mediocre. Onion rings a 2, fries a 4. Sticking with it. Anyways, there is something really nice about, I hate to say this, but like hanging out in a parking lot when you're traveling. You just sort of like accept that you're a bit of a bum on society, and it's really, really, really warm. It's 37 right now, but thankfully we're not under the beating sun, which will come. It will come. But anyway, I'm gonna finish this up, get on the road, and then when you join me next, we'll probably be closing in on our final destination. So, see you then.
They got it. That's probably not good. So it appears we're sliding. And there's a hill ahead of us. I thought for sure no one would be here. Decisions. I don't have a winch. They don't have a winch. That's what you can see there. And that was us. You can't see. Yep, those tires are pretty full. Let's all take a collective moment to appreciate that view that we could have got. Here's a good thumbnail. One of the few modifications, preparations, and well, actually one of them, let's be honest, that I wasn't able to do before I left was get the reverse camera installed. And now would be a good time to have a reverse camera, I'll be honest. Sort of trying to use my old tracks as a guide.
Well, I think that's a wrap for tonight. This is kind of what I'm designating the group camping area. It's fenced in, so I guess if you had horses, although there's no cattle grate, so okay, disregard that. But there's, I guess, for the less adventurous. Am I disappointed that I'm here? Honestly, yes. However, it's now like 8:30, 20 to 9, quarter to 9. So, yeah. Given that I'd like to hit the road tomorrow, this'll do. Not bad for free, right? I have no intention of making t-shirts, but if I did, not bad for free would be a good one. I don't know, maybe a sticker. Yeah. Weird day today. I tried a lot. I failed at a few things. And today was definitely not a fuel economy day. Today was I have to get places at a particular time kind of day. But oh, that's appropriate. I'm glad that we went up, had a look at the view. If we could have snagged one of those spots up there, ooh, that would have been nice. What's today, Tuesday? I think the challenge with this location is it's so accessible from the highway and it's paved, so, you know, people who maybe don't have as confidence in their off-road driving or their rigs or whatever, I would have absolutely gone up that next hill. That would have been wicked, but not today, not after the rain. So, yeah. I'm going to wrap it up here. I think I chose an okay little spot. They've got an ultra quiet generator. I can hear a generator from way down that way, so yeah, I think this is the spot to be. So, with that I say, thank you. Good night. Tomorrow's Moab.